What's good, Lucky Lefty Podcast? Hope you guys had a great weekend. Shaun Davis in the building. Left will be here shortly. We have a special guest today. We're brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. It is that premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. And if you drink, by all means, make sure that you do so responsibly. We are exclusively at CFB Nation. Get your audible edibles each and every day over at CFB Nation on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hey, we are the home of the misguided passion. You know, we keep it funky. You already know. We spin it different. Each and every day, we start the show with the leftovers. Leftovers from our Friday show is definitely the fajitas from Applebee's. The comments about the fajitas and Malik's rant about the presentation of the offense based upon the fajitas from Applebee's was spot on, fantastic. Just in case you missed it, check it out, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to YouTube, the like button. Smash that, helps with the views. We also posted why Notre Dame's offense has to be explosive this season in the three biggest games. They have to be explosive in the three biggest games. It's Lucky Lefty Podcast, man. We will continue to spin it different. As I said before, we're going to preview the linebackers today, right? And it's safe to say over the last few seasons that the linebacker play has been inconsistent. Inconsistent, to say the least. And with that being said, it's going to be interesting when our special guest finally joins us because he is a former captain of the Notre Dame football team, and he was a leader at that linebacker position. And we're going to get not only his insights into the position and what needs to be done, but we're also going to find out, hey, what's it like being captain and starting linebacker at the University of Notre Dame? Should be pretty interesting. Yo, these comments are funny. You know what was crazy though? I want to say this before we get into it. Hopefully, Left will jump in soon. What's going on in Evanston, Illinois? As someone that worked, and we're going to have our special guest on coming up just in a few seconds. But what's happening in Evanston with that Northwestern football situation? And I'm sure you guys are going to ask us about it. It is unfortunate. As I said before, I had the privilege of working for WGN in Chicago for 4 years and covering the Wildcats every Saturday morning. Don't be shocked about some of the stuff you hear. I'll just leave it at that. Do not be shocked by some of the things that you hear. According to all reports that I'm starting to get, it's worse. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So, man, we bring in our special guest. This guy right here, let me tell you something. One of your favorite players from back in the day. Big time linebacker, former captain, number 49 himself. Welcome to the Lucky Lefty Podcast. All the way, I think he's in Tennessee now, but he's all the way from that big state down Texas. We welcome to the Lucky Lefty Podcast, DC Curry. Derek
What's
Curry.
going on? How we doing?
Yo, it is a pleasure to have you on.
Same.
I'm ready to talk to you about Notre Dame, what it meant to you, how you got there, this linebacking core, and what needs to happen.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, how are you feeling, man?
Feeling good, man. Feeling really good, man. I've been blessed, coming from where I come from, being where I'm at, man, it's like a dream. You know what I mean? Every day you get up, you get to do something you love to do with people you love to do it with, and yeah, we laid some foundation back in the day that got us to where we are. So feeling great, man. I appreciate you asking.
Man, so talk about that foundation of what led to you to your business and what you're doing today. Let Notre Dame fans know
Yeah.
about what you're doing.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Houston, Texas, is where I was born. Went to middle school and high school out in Sealy, Texas, which is about 45 minutes outside of Houston, going towards San Antonio, out I-10. Town of 5,000 people, classic small town, big football town. So we, won state 4 years in a row, won team of the decade in Texas. We had all the stuff you can imagine, varsity blues. Kind of experience as far as high school is concerned. But I grew up in Houston, where a lot of my cousins and family lived over in Third Ward and stuff. And so I got a little bit of country, a little bit of city in me, and then got recruited pretty early on out of Sealy, primarily because I think how our team was doing, and then just the fact that I was excelling at a pretty early age in multiple sports. So played 5 sports growing up: football, basketball, baseball, track, and tennis. And so pretty well rounded. I was in the band. I was I did a lot of stuff. They used to call me a Renaissance man. I didn't really know what it meant, but I was involved in a lot of stuff. I wanted to kind of spread my wings, and so started getting recruited. Ended up going to Notre Dame, full scholarship, football, baseball, and didn't end up playing baseball fully just because by the time I was going into my sophomore year, they were like, "Hey, you're going to end up starting pretty quick. You probably got to pick." Bob Davy at the time wasn't really for this 2 sport thing outside of maybe running a couple track meets or something, and so it just really wasn't going to work. So I went to Coach Maneri and said, "Hey, I think this is where I'm going to live on this side of the aisle." I mean, Notre Dame football, Notre Dame baseball at the time was light years apart as far as exposure and potential for your future. So picked football and kind of took off from there. I'll skip most of the football stuff because we'll probably come back to it. But after I left, um, I was with the Dolphins and the Bengals for a little bit in the league. And after I got done with that, I went to work at a church that I went to when I was in college, and so I was there for about 5 years. Left there, went to the waste industry. So one of my mentors that I met at Notre Dame. So just kind of how Notre Dame works, right? So a girl that I met in the training room, she was getting some treatment. I was getting some treatment. The track team used to share some of the trainers. She was getting treatment on a pretty serious injury, so she was in the football facilities. Met her, became friends. Come to find out, we were in some of our classes together. Her dad was in the solid waste industry and said, "Hey, you got to meet my dad sometime." I was like, "Okay, no problem." So I was at a track meet just supporting a lot of the folks who used to run. The football boys used to chase some of them track girls, Preston Jackson. And so we would go to these track meets, you know what I mean, to support. And so I ended up meeting her dad there and kind of realized, okay, there's kind of like a mentor-mentee relationship, just because he was very open guy, very honest guy. Wasn't a Notre Dame grad, but had a kid at Notre Dame. And so he was very open and just kind of talking to me, kind of showing me the ropes, seeing kind of what life was like kind of outside of the circle I grew up in. And so the way I describe it now is I kind of had this like rich dad, poor dad thing going on. Love my family, but there were certain things my dad could teach me. There were certain things that he couldn't from the economic side of life. And so I was kind of learning that from her dad, just watching more than anything. It wasn't super formal, but it was just making a connection at Notre Dame at an event and keeping that connection going. Well, he was in the solid waste industry. And so I was like, man, I don't really understand what that's about. I don't really want to be he was a garbage man. I was like, I don't want to be a trash man. I don't play in the league. When I'm young, this is what I was thinking. So I kind of brushed it off. So I got done playing and I was like, ooh, I need to kind of figure out next steps and next career paths and stuff. And he was always saying the waste industry was recession proof, recession resistant. He started a vertically integrated company from the ground up. And so there was this model that he had built on how to basically operate within the waste space that I was able to watch from a distance and up close because I ended up getting close to this family. And so, long story short, he ended up retiring, and then he started putting this new company that we're running together. And 2 of his sons, one of their buddies from college, and myself run this business now. And yeah, I mean, it's going really well, but it all stemmed from like a training room conversation in a locker room. So this is what people don't understand about the way Notre Dame works, right?
Mhm.
Is these little bitty insignificant moments in your life while you're on campus there can change the trajectory of your future. I'm able to do things in life today that I never would have been able to do had I not said hi to someone that was, relatively different than me. She grew up completely different than me, completely different environment, completely different circumstances. But Notre Dame has this melting pot effect if you're willing to branch out. Because while you're there, you're all the same. It doesn't really matter where you come from. Once you're on campus, hey, you're a student at the end of the day. And so being able to take advantage of that while at the same time being humble enough to learn from people that are different than you, man, if you're a college kid at Notre Dame that has that mentality, then that school can take you super far because people want to help you.
That's one of the blessings, man. Like you said, you grew up and your rich dad, poor dad experience that you just pointed out. I know you always talked about your dad being like a huge role
Yeah, man.
model for you growing
Dude,
up, coming from Texas. And your path to Notre Dame, you described as pretty much being divine, almost like, man,
very, very much
I,
so.
I got in and hey, I had to take the opportunity, and lo and behold, here you are right now, and sitting at the epicenter of Notre Dame recruiting right now is,
Yeah,
that 4 for 40 and
for sure.
introducing what you just talked about to elite athletes, 4 stars, 5 stars, getting them
For
to
sure.
realize that you are a Notre Dame fit. You are a Notre Dame kid. Just talk about that, your experience as soon as
Yeah.
you got to campus and recognizing, I'm a kid from Texas, but you know what? I am a fit right here at this university.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point, man, when I came in. So we were heavily recruiting Texas, Florida, California when I was coming in. So Bob Davie and Greg Madison, those guys were heavy in the South because Lou was heavy in the South, Charlie Strong was heavy in the South. Those guys were really pushing that territory, and so I think we had 20 players, 20 to 22 players from Texas. We had like 16 from Florida. We had another 15 or so from California. The numbers may be a little bit mixed up, but it's somewhere in that range of how many players were coming out of the South. And there was a time where I remember in camp, we were all kind of like, man, this place is different. We all had this shared experience of like, I'm having an experience that's different than anything I've ever been able to experience. Now, the way you say that in college as a freshman is I'm homesick or I miss home or mama's ain't cooking or we can't go to grandma's or whatever. So you're saying all of these things from like an immature freshman standpoint, but what you're articulating is I'm having an experience that's completely different than anything I've ever experienced before. Every student experiences that in their own way, but particularly coming from where I came from, my mind was blown at how big Notre Dame was, how nice everything was, how honest people were, positive and negative, just positive and negatives of being honest, right? Part of this 4 for 40 thing is the kids understanding what opportunities out there, and part of that 40 for 40 is the parents also understanding. See, some of the value that I had is my dad was honest enough with me to say, "There's things about this world I can teach you." Because the way he grew up. There's some street stuff, there's some charisma stuff, there's some grit stuff, there's some toughness stuff that I can teach you that no one else in this world can teach you. So I got to teach you that, son. So we're going to work harder than everybody else. We're going to go longer than everybody else. He was also humble enough to say, once I got to college, hey, there are some things about finances, economics, maybe the other side of the world, the other worldview that I can't teach you. And he told me, you're going to have to learn that from somebody else. So 4 for 40 is not just about Notre Dame providing an opportunity and kids taking that opportunity. It's also about parents showing into their kids the things that they know they can and cannot do, depending on where you come from in life. And God bless you if you got parents that can teach you both of those, finances and faith and family and all that. But if you don't, sometimes the parents got to help the kids understand there's things you're going to learn there that you're never going to learn from me because of where we grew up. You know, graduating from a school of 5,000 kids, having family in third one in Houston, there's some things that we just weren't exposed to. My dad was humble enough to help me say, learn it while you're there. They're paying your way to get an education. Learn it while you're there. So 4 for 40 is not just kids going, Notre Dame is here for me. There's all these opportunities. It's about families coming together and saying, I want better for my kid's future than what it is today. Even if you're coming from a great situation, Notre Dame can take you that much further. So it's not just about the kid that comes from nothing going to something. It's also about those kids coming from something going to something greater. So 4 for 40 is for everybody, but it does take Notre Dame providing this opportunity. It does take a kid taking that opportunity, and it does take a parent saying, hey, this is more important than what you're feeling today. So back when we were freshmen and we're having these conversations about, you know, I feel a little homesick, or man, this is different, or I've never seen this many white people before. There's those defining moments where you can kind of come together and say, you know what, this is also a good thing. All new experiences aren't bad. All uncomfortable experiences aren't bad. The only way a muscle grows is if you stretch it. Right. I'm in our family office here in downtown Franklin, Tennessee, where we live, and I'm in the gym, right? Well, anything that's gotta grow has got to be stretched and torn down a little bit. So why would our journey to success or journey to greatness be any different? See, I think sometimes we get caught up in believing that the road is easy or we're not going to have to work as hard. It's quite the opposite. So when you're a freshman, it's like you're in the gym trying to get that one more rep. When you're a sophomore and it gets hard and you miss your family, it's like trying to get two more reps, switching the exercise, a coach pushing you a little bit further. All that's super uncomfortable. And we can see the benefit physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, we're going through the same thing. And if we have people, a network around these kids that are showing them, hey, this isn't bad. That feels uncomfortable, don't it? You don't like that. You didn't like the way that felt. The way that professor looked at you is a little odd, right? You never felt that before, right? Because he's challenging you on something that you've been able to kind of conquer your whole life, and now you can't. That's not a bad thing. Don't run from that, right? Helping these kids sit in these moments and not just run from stuff is, I think, the wave of kind of where we got to go. And Notre Dame can do that almost better than any other school because of all the resources around it. So, long answer, but that kind of hits that transition period where you go from trying to figure out your future and trying to figure out how to get through Notre Dame, because part of it's getting through, right?
Yeah.
And then the other part is using it to your advantage and letting it use you a little bit, right? There's a little give and take. So
talk about transition between
yeah.
coaches because, of course, Brian Kelly goes to LSU. Marcus Freeman comes in. Some people would say a disappointing first year, 9-4, but he's building. The people forget Brian Kelly was 8-5 his first 2 years, trying to build what he was building. But you went through that. You came in under Bob Davie, and then you guys had one of the strangest off seasons where you thought you had a coach, then you didn't have a coach, then you end up with Coach Tyrone Willingham, and then he comes in, and you guys go into what is one of the most memorable 2002 seasons when it comes to, man, the start of the season. I think outperforming expectations early on because a lot of people doubted the program and things were being said like, is the gold on top of the dome tarnished forever and all that type of stuff. Talk about that transition and the importance of holding fast to the tradition of Notre Dame and what that allowed you guys to do, going through that 2002 season. And you had some OGs in front of you because we're going to talk about linebacker play. That defensive line that you, Courtney, and Mike Goolsby played in front of, man, you had some studs starting with Justin Tuck, B.A., and some of the other guys.
Yeah, for sure, man. So it's an interesting question to answer looking back. I probably would have said something different while I was in it. When I first was on the other side of it, I probably would have said something different. But looking back on it now, man, you realize one of the things that gets you through is knowing why you went there in the first place. I mean, it really is knowing why in the world did I even come here, right? I came here to do something that I never would have been able to do before. I came here because I want to be great. I came here because the program is trying to build. When I was getting recruited in 96, 97, 98, Lou Holtz is on the tail end of his career, about to get let go. And they were about to put in Bob Davie and his crew potentially or whatever. And at the time, Bob was seen as just a really good defensive coordinator, kind of a player coach style, but not really the head coach in Notre Dame wanted, but he kind of looked the part and could talk right. So I went through that transition, but stuck with the recruiting because, again, it's bigger than one person. So remembering why you go there and realize you're going to be a part of something bigger than yourself, you're going to go do something great, is what gets you in and out of those moments. But, man, during that transition, I remember having conversations where half the team is just freaking out. And this is the point I'm about to make regarding that moment is going to be something that's super important today, right? That they get right today. So I remember guys just freaking out, being like, I don't know what I want to do. Maybe I should go to the school that was recruiting me last. And we didn't have a transfer portal, but the mentality was still like the same. Everybody's up in arms. Nobody knows what to do. Nobody wanted this George Leary guy. We couldn't even understand why that conversation was even happening. We weren't even asked about how that conversation was supposed to go as far as players were. That was kind of happening all above us. We were just kind of in the middle of it. So I remember doing team meetings and like shuffling the workouts that week and guys skipping them. And what ended up happening kind of midway through that week is some guys pulled everybody aside and said, excuse my language, what the hell's going on? Why is everybody freaking out? We do what we do. Whoever they bring in is whoever they bring in. you're still going to have the same position. When that coach left and this coach comes in, there's still going to be a defensive end. There's still going to be a quarterback. There's still going to be a wide receiver. Let's go compete in whatever that looks like. So we had some veterans that stepped up and was having those conversations. And I luckily, or even early in my career, me and Goolsby and some of the other guys were some of those guys that were kind of towing that line, saying, "Hey, we know why we came here. We know why we came here. Let's wade through it and figure out what happens on the backside." So when Coach Willingham came in, what you saw is very similar to when um, Coach Freeman came in that you had a coach now that's going to give a certain population of those players exactly what they need, and a certain population of those players not get what they need. Right? When Willingham came in, there was a very clear divide between the players that he was going to reach, no matter who he was and what he did, and the players that he weren't. Willingham was very Tony Dungy like, spoke in these colloquialisms, spoke in this um, very fatherly type of big picture sort of perspective. There's certain players that love that. They gravitate towards that. They're like, eat that up. There's other players like, dude, I don't want to hear that, man. Like, what offense are we running, bro? Like, I don't really care. And so we had a divide very early on. I think similar to the Kelly transition and similar to the transition now, which is like, I'm here to play football. And one of my brothers, dude, loving to death, Mike was on the upper opposite side of that. So me and Mike play exactly the same position as far as both being linebackers. We saw that coaching transition very different. Mike wanted a guy that was going to make sure we had the right X's and O's. I wanted a guy that was going to provide some leadership that we didn't have in Davey, because Davey kind of just went with whatever to make people happy. He was just kind of like, oh, this sounds good. This sounds good. So that transition, a certain percentage of the players got what they needed and they dug in deep and they continued to go. A certain percentage of the population said, hey, we got to make the X's and O's changes to help us win. I don't care how you make me feel. I want to go win games. And so I feel like that's the same thing that's going on now. Well, in that, we had some veterans that were able to kind of toe the line. We have some assistant coaches who were able to bring in that X's and O's thing that we had. And ultimately, the demise of Coach Willingham, to be honest, was simply that he didn't let his offensive coordinator go. We did not get the X's and O's right. We had a fantastic defense. We couldn't score to save our lives. We couldn't move the ball down the field. We couldn't run the ball. We couldn't pass the ball. That first year was electric because everyone was kind of feeling out that really, really, really high, right? And at the same time, we caught some breaks. There's games where probably shouldn't have won that game, but we won that game, right? You pull out some of those wins and then things start to go a little bit better for you. But at that time, you got to have leaders step up that bring the team through that transcend coaching, that transcend position coach, that transcend strength coach. And teams that get through that, I think, are the teams that can do that. And then you get a chance to build, So it was a lot of team-led leadership more than probably the outside even knew. They equated 2002 to Coach Kelly. I'll tell you, Shane Walton and Courtney essentially drug that defensive squad through that whole situation. Jerome Sapp, Cedric Hilliard, these cats are the guys that were one class above us, but really helped push us when we were kind of like, because we were young. I was young at the time. Goolsby was young. But those were the guys that helped drug us through. And one of my biggest critiques over the last, handful of years is like, who's freaking leading the team? Like, where are the guys on the field, right? Because let's be honest, from a defensive standpoint, no matter what the coach calls, even the worst call doesn't always have to result in a touchdown. You can call a terrible play as a defense, put your team in the worst possible situation, right? And it doesn't mean they got to get a touchdown for it. You can outwill the bad call. You can do that. We did it tons that year. There was times where we went into the field with that new defensive coordinator from the West Coast coming from Stanford. He called some crappy defenses, but guess what? Somebody's going to step up and make a play. We're going to get an interception. We're going to pick the ball off. We're going to cause a fumble. Had nothing to do with the call. Yeah, the defensive coordinator is going to get all the credit. We had a terrible defense. We were in cover 3, and they ran a cover 3 beater. It just so happened that we outplayed them. Where I'd like to see us get, as far as our current team, is where are the players on the field that regardless of what calls are being made, we're going to go outperform. Malik, you know this better than anybody, bro. A good receiver, a jump ball, a good receiver don't matter, bro.
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel is your quintessential. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm about to air this thing out, and Mike Evans is about to go make that play. That has zero to do with coaching.
Yeah,
zero.
Zero.
You know what I'm saying? That's backyard ball.
Yeah,
but we didn't do that enough, right? And so, yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Tommy Reese. Super predictable. We can get in all that stuff down the road. But at some point, players got to go ball. At some point, it's man on man. I've seen interceptions from greats on cover three beaters. Don't matter, right? And I look at, and I'm old school, right? So I'm gonna take it back for 2 seconds because this is kind of the stuff I'm talking about, and I think you guys will resonate with it. Back in the day, there was clear leadership on teams. You look at the Baltimore Ravens, the first
Clear
name that comes to
leadership.
mind,
Clear
bro.
leadership.
You got it super clear.
You just know who the dude is, and then it's everybody else. It's just like
everybody else, right? But think about it, Baltimore Ravens. You have been saying it.
So when you on these primetime games and they need that one guy to talk about, we don't have a guy. It's just like,
you don't got the guy.
Yo, you go.
Absolutely right.
We playing Clemson. They all Trevor highlights, stiff arming dude jumping over.
We got.
And then first who? A lineman? You gonna throw out Mike McGlinchey on the poster? We need a poster guy.
Love him. We don't have that guy. But think about it. You think of the Baltimore Ravens, the first name that comes to your mind is Ray Lewis. At the end of the day, Ray is going to conjure up whatever's necessary to help that team win, right? The 2002 Tampa Bay Bucks, Derrick Brooks, Sapp, those guys come to mind. They're driving that team. It's easily to identify. Patriots, Tom Brady, right? The great teams have these players that you know you can put that team on their back or they're going to put that team on their back and it's work time, right? And those are the things that we used to have. The Notre Dame great years, we had it. Shane Walton was our guy. Him and Jerome Sapp, dude. Forget about it. Shane was a soccer player, bro, but he had that thing to where when push was going to come to shove, his little squirrely little behind was going to make a play. Intercept the ball, the game's over. You know what I mean? Manti, during his year, Manti was that guy on defense. You knew you could count on him to make some plays. Do that like, I forget, over 100 tackles a year, something crazy like that, right? He just knew he was going to make the plays. Whether he was technically sound or not, he was just going to make the play, right? And so you can take any era of great sports. Every team's got to have that guy. And for years, we have not had that guy.
That's true.
Basketball, football, those two sports particularly.
Basketball too.
Basketball, if you got one guy, bro, the Cavs and LeBron, you know what I'm saying? D-Wade, Shabby. There's some guys that just transcend the future. But my thing is, like, where are those cats that you know you can count on? I thought Autry was going to be that guy. We didn't help him a lot scheme-wise, but, man, we got to have that guy.
Running back in Notre Dame history without the scheme, you know.
Without it. Hey, oh, dude, don't even get me started.
Hell of a lot. Yeah. That is a hell of a lot.
Lucky Lefty podcast. Derek Curry, former Notre Dame linebacker, former Notre Dame captain, right here with us. The Onora boys are in the building. Apple Podcast, Spotify, CFB Nation, audio edibles each and every day. Go check it out. It's the Lucky Lefty podcast. You already know. We spin it different. I'm fired up. Man, y'all got me fired up. Y'all got me fired up because this is what we've been talking about. It's like, man, you hear excuses. And like you said, that 2002 season, you can go to the Michigan State game. You had no reason winning that game. None.
Zero, bro. None. Zero.
You go down, you 7-0, you go down to Florida State, Chris Riggs and everybody, Anquan Bolden. You have no business winning that game.
Dude, zero. Why even have a shot? Right?
But the leadership, Florida State, the first 3 drives are inside the 20-yard line. Nothing.
Zero.
Nothing.
That's guys deciding to stand up, right? It's like, okay, y'all there, we're here. Stand up.
Right.
You know? And that's what I mean. Like, that kind of stuff it's stuff you write about, but it's also stuff that starts well before you ever hit that point. If you go onto the field believing you don't have it, or the team don't have it, or the scheme ain't right, or whatever, you start reading headlines, you're never gonna have it, right?
Never gonna have it.
No, it doesn't matter, right? But you got to be able to stand up and say, at the end of the day, we're gonna go fight, and we're gonna create whatever we need. What y'all probably don't know is a couple of them drives, me and Courtney made the calls from the field because they didn't get the calls in. I'm talking about in the red zone. The calls are not getting in. What do? Somebody's got to make calls. So we're making base calls. We're making calls that make sense for that time period, right? For that day, for that down distance, based on the tendencies, et cetera. But again, you look at it and go, man, it's like, dude, we didn't get help.
Yeah.
The guys that are on the field will tell you there was times that year in that specific run, we weren't getting the help from the sideline. But at the end of the day, you got guys on the field that know enough about what to do to go try to stand up and make it happen, right? So you can blame scheme. Guys got to go play.
Let's talk about it.
What was your scheme that you really enjoyed, that you feel like maybe the offense could use a similar scheme? Because I agree with you. I think we definitely didn't scheme as well as we recruit. You would think we recruited like a junior college team where we only got 2 good players. We have a team full of players where we do not scheme for all of them. So maybe, what do you think? Because I mean, you know the defense, just like so you know all the parts that have to make things go. But for you know, defense is probably a little different. But what do you think?
Yeah, so for me, the most scary offenses for us to play were multi-weapon offenses on your edge. Man, if you got guys on your edge that can create a problem, that puts so much stress on the linebackers and the safeties, like so much stress. Because for us, it's a mixture of scheme and depth, right? So like teams like USC were tough because Norm Child's offensive scheme back in the day when he had Carson Palmer, he was able to spread us out so far that took away our strength. Our strength was staying in tight. 8.5
guys in the box.
Right?
6 in the box. Play
exactly,
that
right?
defender in and out. Yeah.
You got it, man. But what they did was they said, "No, we're finna make y'all play dime. We're finna make y'all run around the whole first half, and y'all gonna feel good, and we're gonna blow y'all out the second half." And it worked every time because we had no depth. So we didn't have the 2 to 3 man rotation where guys could come in and help us out in the second half. So we were dog tired going into the middle of the third quarter every game, and we played more snaps. So my cousin played at the U during the early 2000s. They were winning those championships, and he averaged, as a starting defensive end, he averaged 63 to 62 snaps a game. Me and Goolsby averaged 84, 85 snaps a game. Bro, I'm putting 20 more snaps a game on my body, even going into the league, right? So you're talking 80.
You don't have legs for all that.
You have nothing. And you're playing them at the end of the year. So you're already beat up all year because we used to play a top 3 schedule, top 4. We still do kind of, but we used to play some dogs back in the day. Those teams, the schedule was rough. But going into the later half of the season, when you're playing the Stanfords and the USCs, those games are harder than they need to be because they're both spreading you really far. It's man on man, essentially. And look, man, call a spade a spade. Being a linebacker trying to guard Reggie Bush out the backfield, it's next to impossible when you're fresh.
That's tough for anybody.
Bro, come on, man. Not to mention, you already got wear and tear on your body that he doesn't have. So not only is he just naturally just way more gifted than you, right? God bless that kid in a way like you wouldn't even believe. But then when you got to match up against him, it reminded me of like, something is coming, but you still can't stop it. And that scheme, particularly that spread scheme, when they originally started that 3 wide, 4 wide, taking that back and moving them out, that original scheme, we didn't have the defensive scheme or what I would call personnel to match up. You know what I mean? When you're putting some dogs on the edges that are first rounders, okay, you got that battle. Then you're going to try to play zone to cover. They're going to eat you up behind the linebackers in front. And then you got a running back that can come out the field that pulls you towards the line of scrimmage. You got a 7 to 12 to 15-yard window that's going to be wide open just because of the scheme. It ain't got nothing to do with athleticism. It's got to do with scheme. Courtney Watson ran a 4.3, but when you take Courtney and make his responsibility, 15 yards deep, and that guy back there named Reggie Bush that can just come out the backfield at any point, even he's going to struggle. You know what I'm saying? So it's that scheme that spreads you out and the depth to do it later in the game. So we can hang with anybody, even in our best years and even in our worst years, we can hang with anybody the first half to the third quarter. But because we didn't have that second, third, and fourth guy to rotate offense, defense, we stopped putting pressure on the quarterback. Quarterback settles in. Now the scheme opens up even more. And no matter what coverages you're playing, there's gaps in every one. So if you got bad play calling, dude, that
happened to us last year. The reason why we're in the games with Cal and Purdue is at the end of the game, you're like, come on, JD, get there. He's making tired plays, tired penalties, tired.
Bro, sloppy. Sloppy.
But and you're in the first 80 snaps, 90 snaps a game. Like, what do you mean? That last where you feel like, okay, this is the closeout drive. We about to go home. It seems like it's so tough because dudes are really tired. You're on play.
Guys are so
tired. 85, and offense got 13 points on the day. You like, oh my God. I got a
it's so different. And we came from the no plays off era too. So we used to get what's called loads, right? So back in the day, this is how crazy this was, man. Just looking at load management now and stuff, like it would have been a completely different game. But we had things called loafs, meaning they would go watch game film for every loaf you had to run. So what I mean by that is if you backside of the play
Yeah, if you
in the
backside
third quarter,
corner or something.
dude, I was outside linebacker for first and second down typically. Then I moved to nickel and I play one of the mics for nickel, and then I moved to Mike for dime, and we'd rotate out. But if I'm on the backside to play on the edge, and that play is all the way on the other side of the field, if somebody passes you up, offense, defense, doesn't matter, that's a low. So guys are in the game worried about how many sprints they're going to have to do the next day, right? So you run in every play. My point is you get in this motor, you run in every play, but you're also killing yourself versus maybe taking that play and off and being fresh for the third down.
Yeah, sometimes the play be too far. It's a little jog is okay. They
Come
want
on.
you to sprint.
Hey, stand there. Just today, I just stand there. Just know what it was saying. They're like spread. You're like, dude, I'm dead. And then by the time third and fourth quarter come, it's like dig deep. It's like, no, I was digging deep in the second quarter when I was trying to chase down that ball in case it came out.
Outside runs and stuff. I'm digging deep for no reason.
Hey, so yeah, there's things like that just I think we just got wrong in terms of perspective on playing the game. I say got wrong. That was the way we did it back then, but I think it hurt us big time because of how poor our offense was. We could not score, bro. If defense didn't score every game, there was a time, in the 03 year where we just weren't gonna win. He's like, you forget about it. We would do 3 and outs faster. I mean, I felt like I would sit down. You're like, oh my God. You know what I mean?
Yeah. About how important complementary football is to showing how good of a team you actually have. Because there's a lot of time, like you said, no matter how good of a player you are, if you're on defense, if you got 90 snaps, it's impossible. You just won't look good. But that doesn't mean you don't have first rounders. Doesn't mean you don't have a good defense. But about just how important complementary offense and defense are.
It's huge, man. It's huge from a team. I'll start from the team psyche first. Like we would go into games and me, Goolsby, Courtney, Shane, Cedric Hilliard, Daryl Campbell. Tuck was a pup at that point, so he wasn't really in those conversations at the time, and he came into them very quick. But the conversations were, guys, if we don't score, we don't win. Yeah. If we don't get 3 takeaways, we don't win. And it was these conversations like we got to go create turnovers because we know for a fact our offense won't score. So what it did was pregame even created animosity.
Yeah.
So since they ain't gonna, and I love them, but they ain't gonna do nothing. So if we don't do it, we don't win. So you're trying to win the game from defense, and so it creates animosity within the team, and then that's where you end up with. Do your freaking job walking by the offensive line. Do your job, man. Block somebody, running back, run the ball kind of stuff. And so that's the first part of it. But secondly, I remember, going into pro days and going into my senior year, when they started talking about game film, I'm like, bro, if you show me in the third, fourth quarter, I look like I shouldn't even be out here. Now I'm making plays and all that, but I look slower. I look way more broken down, compared to first and second quarter. Late in the season, game film was different. So getting to the next level is, to your point, having a complementary game, even if we'd have dropped our snaps by 10 or 11 per game, we're not even in the same category of fatigue in the third and fourth quarter. Now you drop it down 20 snaps, even if that's a rotation, right? Even if the defense is playing 80 snaps, if you can rotate yourself out to get to where the elites, Jonathan Vilma, DJ Williams, guys that I compete against on the high school level, them cats are running 56 snaps a game. Yeah, they look like speed demons. They look super strong. And they were. But the reality is they out of the game in the third quarter, like I was in high school. I didn't play the second half a lot in high school because we were blowing people out.
Your job. Yeah.
So that's what they was doing, right? So they could rotate out. And so it's like, my game film against theirs going into the draft is going to look completely different, bro. Like completely different.
Now, as a linebacker now, because like you said, back then, 250, 260 Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
Now you can't be 250, 260 sitting in the middle.
No, you can put your hand on the ground.
How would you I don't know, train the linebacker in today's generation? Would you be more speed, like I'm skinny 225 moving, or do you still think there needs to be weight in that middle for that linebacker to be able to hold it down?
Yeah, I don't, man, and I changed that over the last 3 to 4 years. But I look at some of the size of some of the guys. So we've had guys like Prince Shimbo, and and I look like did that work? Well, he's a little short for the way the game is now, right? You got to be able to get back in the coverage. You struggle to get back in the coverage. You know what I mean? I even look at Manti today. Manti today probably wouldn't make it just because you don't really need that come downhill thump. You just need to be able to wrap up, make tackle. The way you tackle people is different. So I'd say drop 10 to 15 pounds off of him. But I'm in that 225 to 230 range. This speed is what you need because you got to be able to enforce, right? Even though the game has changed the way you hit, what we used to do was in the first quarter, you're taking somebody's heart right away.
Yeah.
Right away. When you come across the middle, you don't think twice about whether or not you're sticking your hands out. I remember catching Charlie Rogers coming across the middle, and the ball was in the air. He didn't want it.
He didn't even want it.
No, don't stick your hands out. Just keep running. Just track start that thing.
Like when they're
because
behind,
I'm going to break your entire chest, bro. I'm going to run right through you. You know what I mean? Running backs running that little zig or running a zag. You about to get it, you know?
Yeah, just hands on. Yeah,
forget about it, man. So you can't really do that. Even how far down the field you can hit people. But I would say from a linebacker standpoint, the guys we have seem to have the height and weight. I think there's a gap in. I ain't gonna call it coaching. I'm gonna call it. There's a gap in
intensity.
Focus.
I think it's intensity
focus.
or something.
Focus stuff.
Yeah,
they're intense, but they're running around 100 miles an hour, not going anywhere, not doing anything. And I was and all the guys that play with me would tell you I was a technique goddess, dude. I was that dude that my technique was gonna be right. I was not gonna make mistakes. We make so many freaking errors on defense, and I'm speaking just for defense. We make so many mistakes. It's not even funny. It's a miracle we ever make plays, right? And I'm not sure if that's coaching not getting the guys prepared enough, or if that's players not doing what the hell they're asked to do. And those two things for me, when I talk about that current team, I struggle, man. I even watching a game like Marshall in the bowl game, it's like, guys, y'all ain't doing what you're supposed to do. I know that's not what the coach called, and even if it was, we could have fared better than the way that turned out. You know what I'm saying? Even if it was, like, bro, come on. And so what I struggle with is this and I used to think, oh, it's a generational thing. No, and I watch Georgia. I know the scheme. I know defense real well.
Yeah.
Those guys do what they're supposed to do.
They play different though. They go out there and act like that's their last game ever. But
do they do that because they're confident in what they're getting sent out there to do, or are they doing that because that's just who they are as people and players, right? Because some of your confidence grows in knowing that you know what's coming. I'll put it like this. By the time I was a junior, I got it down to I can whittle every offense down into 3 plays based on scheme, right? Because we used to get the tendency reports. I used to study those. So the checks that I would have to make at the line of scrimmage, me or Goolsby, whoever was making them, typically it was me or Goolsby, you're making them based on down and distance based on what's coming. You're not doing this look to the side and ask the coach what's coming. You know what's coming. So now it's man on man.
Yeah, that's right.
Every tendency is going to tell you something. I'm like, do we still do tendencies at Notre Dame? Because I feel like everybody looks surprised all the time. Dude, if I got beat in college, it was because, like, yeah, you were just that dude. Great story. Okay. USC, Reggie Bush, his freshman year. I know exactly what's coming. Okay, they got 4 wide. I'm left on Reggie and dime, middle of the backfield, right? I know what's coming. He's getting ready to motion out. Once he motions out, I know he's going to run a go route. It's going to look like a wheel, but it's going to be a go because he's just going to take off running. Okay, fine. I drop back 6 yards. 8 pre-snap. While he's going out, I'm dropping back 6 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards, giving myself cushion. Because look, hey, I'm smart. I know what's coming, bro. You're gonna go deep, and I'm gonna take it away so you don't even throw it because I don't think I can.
I'm trying to jump the gun so over top of it. You don't even think about it. Yeah.
I have a safety. Glenn Earl's supposed to be over the top of me. I'm almost his depth when this ball is snapped because I know what's coming. I ain't no fool. Bro, Reggie, they say Reggie turns the corner. I backpedal a little bit like an idiot instead of just turning and running. He closed the gap on me so fast, bro. I turn and I'm just because I know it's coming.
Look for him. You just start running towards him.
I run to the pylon. I look over my shoulder and see the ball in the air, bro, and I'm like, "This is it. I know it's coming. I got it." He runs past me like I'm not even moving, catches the ball and then goes out of bounds. That's an example of I'm completely prepared.
Yeah,
I know exactly what's coming. He's just better than me.
Just a better player at that time. Yeah, that's it.
Right? Glenn wasn't over the top. Now
you can live with that. You can live with that.
When coach said what happened, what I say? Well, Glenn was supposed to be over the top, right? But I knew he just beat me, right? But I'm not going to get yelled at all by myself. Glenn was supposed to be over the top. Glenn was hanging in the middle, trying to bait him to throw it.
He didn't get over fast enough. That's just you're just not fast enough.
You ain't fast enough, bro. God didn't bless me with that. So, but that's an example of I'm completely prepared. I know what I'm doing. That's just man on man getting beat. That's how we used to lose USC, right? It's like, no, that guy's just 2 inches taller, 3 inches taller than Shane. That guy's just bigger than P Rock. So they're gonna throw a jump ball.
Yeah.
It's just a go route. This is just a jump ball. Like, yeah, you're gonna lose on some of those because that guy's just bigger, better. Mike Williams, he's just a man, he's a freak, that kind of stuff. You're gonna lose those. But it wasn't because we weren't prepared. When I watch what we're doing, we got the better skill, we got the better talent, and you getting beat by scrubs on scrub schemes with scrub play calling. So I look at it and go,
and it's third down and 8, third down and 15, and we giving up crazy explosive plays on third down.
Why?
Yeah, just that's bad.
So for
that's
me,
bad right there.
So for me, that tells me it's like either you don't know what's coming because you're not prepared enough, or you're not doing what the coach is asking you to do. And I remember Kelly used to say this, where I could see it in the press conference, where he's like not wanting to say the player ain't doing what he told him to do, but at the same time, he know that we were in the right call. That's a tough spot to put.
He's like, look, they call nothing better.
What better can I do? You just got to go where you're supposed to go. And that was that whole red-faced Kelly era where he was kind of getting his way. But I watched, he was right on a lot of that. People didn't like that. I'm like, dude, yeah, he called the right play. This guy's not doing what he's supposed to do. You know what I mean? Or the same thing. I saw it on Freeman's face last year a handful of times where he's like, we had it. And I would say pre-snap, we got him.
We got him. Yeah,
we got him. And then before you know it, house call. You're like, wait, show me that replay because I don't understand how we got there. And it's just guys not doing what they're supposed to do, not getting over the top, going underneath, not being tough. It's that kind of stuff that I think.
It's a mentality too. You gotta want to tackle somebody in space. It's there's no coaching to it. It's a want. You gotta be able, I have to bring them down. That's it.
Yeah, it's me and you. I gotta take you to the ground. Just the way it is. Yeah. So there's that. And then I'll be honest, man. I don't see no killers out there, and that's scary for me. You know what I mean? As a defensive guy,
that's a fact.
Like, I wouldn't even say that I was a killer, but I was gonna put it on you.
Yeah,
but when you gonna feel me, put it that way. One of us two was about to be broken up or hurt, but at the same time, we had guys like Glenn Earl. Glenn was gonna knock himself out to take your heart. The amount of times Glenn Earl went unconscious, again, you don't do that anymore. I get it. But that was the mentality. Like, I'm going to run through you. I'm going to take your soul and take it back on that plane. You're going to get up out of here, right? Yes. That was the mentality. I don't see that. I see like a lot of everything's friendly now. It's like
it's a friendly ass defense. Like, I'm gonna let you down real easy.
Yeah.
Push you out of bounds.
And I don't buy into all of the we used to say the cornerbacks do all that chirping. I don't buy in all that body language. Dude, run through somebody. Yeah. You can do the body language. You can do the talking. You can do all this. Run through somebody, right?
Yeah, I don't feel like anybody that's just legitimately crazy. That we just like, man, nut on the defense. He just, you can't leave him alone by himself because he can't. Crazy. Yeah,
you gotta have one or two. You gotta have one or two.
We got a bunch of upstanding citizens, guys that will never jaywalk, never get a parking, good family man, all that. But dang, we would love.
And you can do both, man. I'm gonna tell you, you can do both because Tuck was probably one of the nicest cats you'll ever meet, right? But Tuck was gonna make sure that you felt him. You know what I mean? He was that guy. Courtney Watson, same thing. Like, he wasn't a tough player, but he was gonna make sure you knew where he was at. And I can go down a list of the guys back then. And I'm not even saying we didn't win a national championship. So I'm not saying we was like that caliber, but we competed on that same level. And we had a mentality that was, if all the stars aligned and everything went the way it was supposed to go, we were for the dog eat. And we believe that every single week. And I feel like some of the guys believe that today, but I look at some of the way we operate on offense and I go, man, like, how did Mayweather not go for 1,000 yards? How does Mayweather not go for 1,000 yards, bro?
And you're seeing the coverage pre-snap, like, oh, they're just going to press him man to man.
We have it.
No help, no nothing. Just go one-on-one this guy all day, and we don't even.
2/3 of the time we have it, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, what are we doing? That kid should be dominate, And so there's things like
we're pressing, and anytime we're pressing Tobias one-on-one, we're just saying we don't believe you.
100%.
Put up a sign on the sideline. We don't think you're gonna do it.
but we don't do anything to change that. We're like, yeah, you're right. We're gonna check into this little run over here. It's like, if we check in and run one more time, I'm about to go throw some pads back on. Like, man.
Lefty podcast. So, what is the key to consistency at the linebacker position. Look, like you said,
week to
you
week,
can see people scrape over the top and not get there.
Yeah.
If I see that one more time, if I see another blown assignment against Marshall with a third down situation,
running through the A gap, missing the tackle, missing the TFL.
Why are you there? Yeah, I would say number one is preparation, man. You, as a linebacker, you have to know what's going on. Goolsby says it till this day. I used to get Goolsby lined up all the time, right? But Goolsby knew how to play the game, right? He absolutely knew how to play the game. The key is knowing what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to be and making sure other guys can get there. Because I don't believe we got leadership on the defense. I'm just going to be flat out honest. That's my biggest critique. I feel like we look to the sideline for leadership. Even back when Bob Diaco was there, love Bob. Bob's not the leader. Dude, on that field, I don't care what y'all call. Call anything. Somebody's got to be on the field, say, this is my team. I'm putting them on my back. Here's what we're about to go get. I don't see that. The mentality, I hate saying we used to. The mentality has to be, call whatever play you want. We're going to dog these boys. Because I got that guy on that play no matter what, or I got that guy, or I'm going to lock that guy down. It don't matter the coverage. If your job is to lock him down, lock him down. You know what I'm saying? And I think we're not prepared enough to know how to control that moment. And what happens is, as these games start to progress and guys' fatigue starts to come in and anxiety comes in and the mental aspect of the game comes in and I don't want to make a mistake and I don't want to make an error, our guys seem to just like stop performing.
Oh, yeah.
And that is very, like, almost like the paralyzed. Like, why? You're supposed to drop 5 yards or 10 yards or 3, and you stay in the same spot. Like, you didn't do anything.
Yeah, you
like,
think
what's the reason, right? And so that's why I feel like they're not prepared sometimes, because they end up looking like they don't know what they're supposed to do. Some of these blown coverages, the guys just literally having no idea where they're supposed to be. And that's uncalled for me, because the one thing you can do is be prepared. Now, if you get Reggie Bush, you just get Reggie Bush.
Hey, we'll lose some. We account for that.
I'll take those. I'll take those, and I'll go, you know what? Yeah, you know what? They just got us on that one. They were the stronger team. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But when it happens play after play after play, because you're not in the right place, or because you go over the top and you're supposed to be underneath, or because you can't drive through a guy, that's uncalled for us, especially against a team like Marshall and South Carolina's of the world or whatever. No disrespect, but at the end of the day, like, we should be dogging them boys. They're not on the same level.
What would you say though for a guy like a Marist, a guy like a JD Bertrand, guys that been there? Should know how to prepare. Veterans should be leading the young dudes, making the plays as the veteran guy. What's the issue there that you would offer to fix? Because I felt like Marist took a step back. JD Bertrand's not making the impact I feel like he should as a senior. You got younger dudes that's flashing where I feel like they should be following the lead of the older guys. What is the problem in the senior part of the linebacking core?
That's a great question, man. And I thought about even how to answer this, and I wanted to be politically correct, you know what I'm saying? But we're just gonna keep it all the way real. They're just not those dudes. They're just not those dudes. They're not. And I hate to say that because I like JD's personality. I like a lot of what they bring to the table, but they are not the guys. Dude, if you've been there that long and you can't make an impact bigger than you made, we got to move on at some point, or else you're dragging everybody else now. And I hate to say that, but we got to give somebody else a shot at this point. And if I was that player, I probably would have been humble enough to say, yeah, we kind of got to do that, right?
You would say that? You would say
I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win. But I'll be honest, there's nothing in me that's going to ever succeed, right? So I'm going to make sure that I'm that guy.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm like.
I'm going to make sure.
I'm not going to say you should be passed up, but you should have the fortitude to be like, I have to play better. I just have to play better.
I'll give you a great example. When I went to the Dolphins, so that was Nick Saban's year when I went to the Dolphins. So let me tell you our linebacking room. Junior Seau, Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor we were in a 3-4, so Jason Taylor was a DM, but he was kind of an outside backer.
Stand-up guy. Donnie
Spragan. So when I walk in that room, I'm humble enough to know I'm not the less than 1 to 1%, right? I'm humble enough. I'm not gonna tell coach, hey coach, you need to sit Junior because he's a little slower than me, and he's got like this thing going on with his ankle, coach. I'm humble enough to go, that dude needs to be in there, and if he goes down, I'm gonna be ready.
I'm gonna be ready. Yeah, I'm gonna just be ready. Yeah.
But he's that guy, right? And so when I look at our linebacking room, we don't have any of that.
Yeah.
We talked about leadership on the team. Zach Thomas used to be the leader of that defense. And then Jason Taylor was right behind him from an enforcer standpoint. But when Junior Seau stepped on that team, Junior say I was the leader, and everybody knew it. Zach succeeded. This is humility, right? I want our team to be successful. I'm going to succeed my longtime Dolphins linebacker enforcer position to Junior. I'm going to be second and third in command between him and Jason. But everybody knew Junior's going to do Junior. That's true leadership, though, knowing how to default to something that's maybe more skilled, maybe more better, or maybe just more equipped in that moment to do that job, right? So I didn't see Zach say that, and they were good friends. I didn't see Zach that year going, no, screw that. I'm the guy. It's like, no, he goes, no, Junior's that dude. He's still that dude. He's been in the Pro Bowl, you know what I mean? And I learned something from that. You know what I mean? But I look at our team now, we don't have that dude. You ain't worried about JD.
The respect as that linebacker or that.
You're not scheming, worried about Maris or JD. They used to run away from me or from Tuck and try to run away from Courtney. So you know what we did? Courtney was real. I was the Sam.
Yeah.
Try. Good luck. You can't run. Now Tuck's on that edge too. Goose is on my right. There's an element of like they're not scheming against us. They're not scheming against our scheme. They're just doing whatever they want, knowing that we're not going to be in the right position. Right. Yeah. That's the way I look at the games that we lost. Like even the Ohio State game, we got all this credit. Ohio State just didn't play good, in my opinion. I looked at that game, dude. If they would have been on like they were later on in the year, they would have trashed us. Now, we did some things to prevent them from trying certain stuff, which I liked. But at the same time, when they started putting it together, it could have been bad, like quick. And it would have looked very similar to that Marshall game. Marshall, we couldn't control the line of scrimmage. Why can we not control the line of scrimmage against Marshall? Why do we have so many missed assignments? Why do we have so many broken plays? Why is our offense not trying to win the game? I felt like we're not even trying to win this game.
Yeah.
Like we're not throwing
around waiting for the clock to tick down. Like I don't understand.
Man, you have to school me on that offline, man, because I looked at that game and I watched it 3 or 4 times and I cannot figure out for the life of me why we were calling the plays we were calling and why the offense was doing what it was doing. And again, I'm not claiming to be some offensive guy. But I'm telling you, there was some stuff
going on.
I'm being humble, but I'll tell you, man, there was some stuff we were doing, bro. It's like we're trying to lose this game. We're not. It's not even like we're working on something. It's like no, it's time to go win. Forget this tune-up game. Let's go work on these details.
And best player's hands. And
let's work on our zone reach. No, don't work in your zone reach. Go win this freaking game because you're about to lose. Oh wait, the game's over.
Yeah.
We just lost to Marshall. What the absolute hell?
We not right. No plays.
But I think it's all that. So I look at that linebacker room, man, and I think somebody's got to step up and do more than just do all the right things. The leader at Notre Dame now is the guy who just does the right thing and says the right stuff. They ain't no leader, dude. That's part of it.
They all do it. Yeah.
You got to go play. Earn your respect on the field, not necessarily by and I was a good guy. I did all the right stuff. The guys will tell you I didn't drink and smoke and all that stuff in college. I didn't. I was the quintessential choir boy, right? But when we got on that field, you can count on me. You can absolutely count on me because I was going to do what I was supposed to do. I was going to put you in the right position to make the play, and I was going to do everything possible to make sure we were successful by either out-leveraging them or putting everybody in a good position. That's what I was going to do. But it don't mean you got to go, it don't mean you have to go wayward to be that guy. You ain't got to be you don't have to be crazy necessarily, but you got to have an edge to you that when you step on the field, the guys who I can count on you, you ain't going to give nothing up. And I don't think you have it. I think guys look at JD and Maris and go, yeah, they're going to probably end up in the second level. That's not what you want. You don't want to safety. You don't want Kyle going, yeah, they're going to get to me, so I'm going to have a lot of tackles this year. You want the safeties to go, I'm going to scratch. I'm going to come to the line of scrimmage hard because they may not get there because they won't get them before I get there.
Yeah,
that's a different mentality. Yeah. Versus, I'm going to have to make this open field tackle 15 yards down the field with this guy with a full head of steam. I feel like that's what they feel like.
Yeah.
So, got a ways to go. I think you're muted, big dog.
The frustration for Notre Dame fans has been that Marcus Freeman comes in as a defensive coordinator and immediately recruits back-to-back stellar linebacker classes. And the speed and athleticism is supposed to be elevated. And somehow, some way, we continue to see the same mistakes and inconsistency by the experienced players. And Notre Dame fans are saying, okay, where's the youth? Where are the young guys? If they're supposed to be better, why aren't they playing? And now you're in a season where these guys have now been in the program 1 to 2 years. They should be ready to go. And there should be some pressure. There should be some heat on the necks of Maris, JD, Kaiser, and all of those veterans to say, if you're not getting the job done this year, you can come over here to the sideline.
Marcus, this year, it should be happening now.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman tell him in spring, hey, like I told my quarterback last year during the season, we will get somebody in here if y'all ain't doing y'all job. And I feel like that's fair.
It is fair. It is fair. You got to be honest with them. I mean, that's why you go to the school, right? You know, so I think you got to be honest with them, but you also got to do it. You got to make the change. I'll be honest. I'm looking at it like, why aren't they already in the conversation? My frustration is we got the guys behind that you wanted to bring in. It ain't no disrespect. Notre Dame's in a different place than it was when I was there. You don't have to do this whole legacy thing, and I've been there, and so-and-so's my grandkid's kid. Like, no, we transferring quarterbacks in, we moving people out. Let's do it then. If we don't do that, we're not going to be able to compete. And my biggest frustration is that I feel like we're going to get left behind because we're not making the changes and shifts the other programs are making. We're doing it the old-fashioned way still because we got so much loyalty to the way we've done it, and that's going to cost us. It's already cost us. You know, it cost us losses last year. If we're afraid to make the change and try the other guy, whatever. I mean, look at these other schools, dude, and the amount of young cats playing that are showing up. Yeah, it's going to take them a game or two to get the speed and all that sort of stuff. Give them a shot, you know? So I think we got to, you know. I didn't know if we were going to talk specifically about that, but I just don't think them the guys anymore. I think we got to get some of these young cats in and let them run. I started as a sophomore. Let them go.
How much respect Marcus Freeman gets, and how much support does he get from administration if he goes 8-5 this year?
Honest opinion is very little.
Is he on the hot seat? I just want to know. You think he's gonna be on the hot seat?
I don't think he'll be on the hot seat. My public kind of like Notre Dame ambassador deal is you got to give the guy time. You know what I mean? But I know internally there's going to be a lot of, especially with Schwarber stepping out. I think there's going to be a lot of heat. But I think as long as he's making the moves to prove he's willing to make the changes, I think he'll be all right. My biggest fear is he settles in and continues to try to give somebody a shot. That whole Buckner Pine bull crap that we was doing last year, bro, it cannot happen again. We got to find a guy, go get a guy, let that guy be the guy, find the next one. We got Hartman this year. Let's ride with him and let's go find some support.
Go to the spring next year. Be excited. Say, hey, we found one. He's a starter.
We found one. No question. Everybody's doing it, you know. When we gonna be Dion to bring on Louis, right? We know today, dude. So yeah,
brand.
Yeah, exactly. But Shaun, to your point, man, I think those got to be the guys right now. I don't think there's any more delay. I think we got to put them in. We got to let them play. We got to let them eat because that's the only way you're gonna keep getting recruits. What you cannot do is continue to get these top talent recruits and make them sit. You can't get a guy like Merriweather and not give him the rock. His whole career, his whole life has been built on being that guy, getting the rock, doing what he does.
Defensive guys favor by staying, because if he was really on his gritty, he would have left last year.
He would have left, and I was glad he didn't. But like I look at a guy, I mean, I laugh, you know, but I don't know why you're recruiting linebackers out of Indiana. But Drake Bowen looked like he's gonna be that guy. Put him in, let him be raw. Goolsby was raw. Goolsby was raw when he first started. Goolsby was the first one out of our class. Him and Vontez Duff were the first two to play. Put him in, let him run. He's gonna make mistakes. Yes, I don't care. Go play, build your grit, and that's how you keep that guy for a long time. And that's how you go get some plays that you never would have got because he's gonna make mistakes that are gonna work his way into a play that the veteran guy's never gonna make because he knows it's the wrong thing to do. Hey, newsflash, they already ain't making the plays. Go find somebody.
They're not about to fall into no play because they're not making them.
I did all my technique right, and I still didn't make it because I fell down. Okay, go find somebody that ain't gonna do it right. That's gonna go make a big exciting play. Put these cats in, let them run.
Jalen Sneed.
Come on, man. He may
overrun the play, but he gonna come and hit you.
But he finna lay you out, right? Put him in. So I'm there, man. And I think that's what we got to do. And I honestly think that does get the recruits in because they see we're not afraid to play you early. We're not stuck in the old ways. But I think some of these cats don't want to come because they're so nervous that they're going to get left behind or stuck behind somebody because this loyalty we got. We got to be loyal to guys that win, guys that make plays. That's the way the game goes now. And if we don't do that, Freeman's going to get criticized big time for it. You know what I mean? Because everybody else is doing it.
Now, you've been in an NFL situation. You've been around NFL coaches. As a young linebacker, Drake Bowen, Jaden Osbury, you got Al Golden, the NFL guy who is not interested in anything in college.
Yeah.
He is an NFL coach. but you a freshman linebacker that wants to know everything.
Yeah.
How do you establish a relationship with an NFL guy like Al Golden, who clearly is like, listen, the college thing, I get it, but I'm here to call plays and schemes and blitzes. Like, how do you work that relationship?
Yeah, no, see, and this is where it goes back to being prepared and being a student of the game. You got to go in, you got to have a conversation that says, look, I want to be in the right place at the right time at all times.
Because them NFL coaches, they're not looking to really help you. It's like, look, I'm out there, and if you don't do it, shit, I don't know what to tell you.
There ain't no 6-inch step. You're in the hook curl or you're not. You in the flat or you ain't. You in the backfield or you ain't. You blitz hugging or you're not. But I think you got to go have a conversation that says, which speaks their interest, is how do I go get myself in the right position? Because that's what they focus on. They focus on getting you in the right position. It's your job to let your talent go play. And I think these kids got to be students of the game enough to go to a guy like him and say, hey, how do I go get myself in position on every play? I'm committed to doing that. Tell me how to do it. Show me how to do it. And then, hey, let the rest happen, right? But he's got to know you want to go do what's right, because what he ain't going to tolerate is mistakes. And the problem with rookies and freshmen and young cats is they make a lot of mistakes. But if you go master a playbook, man, when I was with Miami, dude, I would go back during OTAs. I'd be in the playbook. Everybody else, we in Miami, so everybody else is doing Miami. I'm trying to figure out how to stay on this team, bro. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm trying to figure out how to master this playbook so that when I go out there, I don't look stupid. Plus, the veterans, they're going to come in a couple weeks. They already know what to do.
Junior, they're
doing with their eyes closed. They're only going to practice for 6 to 7 snaps anyway, and they're going to get pulled out. So you better know what you're doing, because if not, you're going to catch your red ass every day. So, and back then, Nick, Will Muschamp, and all Derek Dooley and all them cats who was there at the time, they kind of were college coaches that had kind of migrated into the league, but they still kind of had that same mentality, right? And the Bengals was the same. Bengals is like, we're not babysitting nobody, dude. You either gonna get yourself where you're supposed to be, or you ain't gonna be here. It's just that simple, And I think those are the conversations them young cats got to have with a guy like Al, because Al will respect the guy that wants to do the right thing and be in the right spot more than he will someone that's just going to be about themselves and trying to, build their Instagram following or whatever.
Yo, Lucky Lefty podcast. We're talking linebackers with Derek Curry right here. A few more moments. We appreciate you giving us some time on this Monday.
For sure. Definitely.
And I'm definitely gonna hit you up when Nashville is one of my favorite spots.
Yeah,
one of my favorite spots to go to. So I'm definitely gonna hit you up when I come down. Let's get to the 3 keys for this linebacking core, because I expect this offense to be more explosive this year with Sam Hart. So now you talked about playing complementary football. In your opinion, linebacker, defense as a whole, what do they need to do? Do they need to be more aggressive in attack with the type of offense that you expect to have? Or would you like to see them do more of the same thing, but just be more consistent in what they're doing?
Good question. Yeah. So we have to do a couple things based on where I see. So we got a good foundation, right? We only allow 23 points a game, which in this new style of offense, that's really, really good. But most of the points we allowed were big plays. I think if we limit the big plays by being better prepared and stop being out of position, that's the first key. Get yourself in better position so that you can actually make the plays you're supposed to make. Because if you're not in the right position, you're not going to be in a position to make those plays in the first place. We got a tough enough schedule where these quarterbacks are going to make the right passes. These running backs they're going to pick the right holes. But if we're not in the right place we're supposed to be in, we're dead in the water. So I think that's the first thing. And then I think we need to be a little more aggressive. There were times when we set back late in the game versus attacking a little bit more, being a little more aggressive up front. With scheme and with the combination of linebackers, blitzing and whatever, I'd like to see us move to a fire zone, scheme a little bit on third down, create a little more chaos. We're very predictable in the sense that we did a lot of man-on-man just because I think we're afraid for the
middle linebacker pressure.
Bringing pressure. That's what I love about the fire zones is you can bring linebacker pressure. You can play man on one side, zone on the other, and you can bring some pressure from unorthodox spots versus being a little more predictable going, we're going to come straight down at you. Okay, well, we're going to scheme and come down. That's a little bit different, right? And so I think we can end up doing a lot.
Big-ass defensive ends in the pass coverage on third down.
Yeah, what's that about? Yeah. So all you're doing is you softening up the entire defense when you do that. You know what I mean? That quarterback can get settled in. Like I said, these guys are going to make plays, but if we don't get hands in their face it's going to be a hard road no matter where you are because the offensive schemes now are so good and they limit the defense in a lot of ways because you can't be super physical down the field. So you're going to have a lot more guys running free. So being prepared, knowing what you're doing, being a lot more aggressive as far as the front is concerned. And then I think last thing is like find that leader. We need that guy or two to step up. And that's a charge to every guy on the defense. I don't care what position it comes from, but there is no clear leader. The commentators can say all day, well, JD this and Makaja. Look, just because you call it from the announcers doesn't mean it hits the field. I don't care who you're saying is leader. Somebody internally needs to lead that team, even if they're the least known guy on that team publicly. I don't care who it is. Somebody's got to step up and lead.
And they got to play good.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they got to be a dog too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and they're gonna obviously do that from the front. You're absolutely right. And I think those three things will help us in ways like we haven't seen in a long time because all the good defenses have them, all the good offenses have them, and I think specifically on defense, if you don't have a tip of the spear kind of mentality with somebody that's willing to go out there and take those bullets up front and make those big plays, it's gonna be tough. And I think we got some young guys coming up that can do it. We just got to give them a shot. So.
We talked about the marriage between the quarterback and the wide receiver, and I'm glad you said what you said because look, we've been telling people if you're a dog, if you're a dog, it don't matter who the quarterback is. You can go out there, throw the ball up. I'm getting it.
That's right.
I'm gonna get it. And look, you can talk about the defensive line in front of you, man. If you're a linebacker, and you're a dog, man. I'm making that play. I'm getting that dude down, right?
Yeah.
So the marriage between linebacker and defensive line. The mentality that the linebackers have to have. Do they just have to forget, like, hey, it doesn't matter. I want them to do their job, but if they don't, I'm getting this guy. Is that basically what you're saying that needs to exist at the second level? Because there is a marriage between defensive line, linebacker play, and being able to do your job correctly.
Yeah, I would say the marriage is more trust than it is a disregard, right? So one thing that I could do back in the day, especially when I was on third and fourth down, when I was either nickel or dime backer and coming off the outside, I had to be able to trust that they were going to be where they were going to be. And so what we used to focus on was we had gap control, but we also had technique control. What I mean by that is if you're supposed to be in your gap come hell or high water, I'm not going to cover for you. Your ass better be in your gap. That's the expectation. So I don't care what happens. You get your ass in your gap. I don't care if you got to fall down, do a roll, do a somersault, spin back, hold, get in your gap because I got to be in mine. We held each other accountable in ways that this team does not.
Yeah.
There's games you can go back and you can see me punching guys in their helmet, slapping guys around a little bit. And that's built. That is built.
We definitely won't do that. That's what we
won't. We won't. But I'm telling you, like that's. Yeah, no, for sure. But I was saying. That was the mentality. You need to be where you need to be because I got to be where I'm supposed to be. If I'm worried and that you're not going to be, I'm going to always be late on mine. So, yeah, you got to kind of cover the sins of the D line, but them linebackers got to hold that defensive line accountable and go, Cedric, if you're supposed to hold that center and that guard, you hold their ass. I don't give a shit. Hold them because I got to cover these key gaps. So you got to do your job. So there's got to be a trust that everybody up front is going to do what they're supposed to do. The guys behind you are going to do what they're supposed to do so that you can do what you need to do and you can be a little more free, right? So it's not necessarily a disregard for what's supposed to happen. It's the opposite. It's an extreme trust in that guy doing what he's supposed to do so that you can look like you running free, but he's doing what he's supposed to so you can run free. But what I see now is a lot of stop and go because they're indecisive. And so for me, I don't know if that's because they don't trust the guy or they don't know exactly where they're supposed to be because that looks the same in football. Indecisiveness can look like, lack of trust can look like indecisiveness or lack of scheme because the mechanics are the same. You're either stopping and starting or you're going, right? I can always tell when our guys are going to blitz. It's a key. Easy to tell when our guys are going to blitz. They don't have good, I forget what we used to call it. I forget what it's called, but they show their blitz is really obvious, whether it's in the way their stance is, where their feet positions are, where their hands are, where their hands are up or down. Those are keys that really good offensive. No disguise. Yes. We don't disguise really well at all. So when we're coming, everybody in the stadium that knows football knows we're coming. So that tells that offense, that tells that running back that he can't leave the pocket, he's got to stay in. So that's why a lot of our blitzes get picked up. Right? You watch the teams like Georgia and Bama and them cats, Ohio State, they always look like they're running free to the backer because they're disguised their blitzes really well to the point to where you abandon one of your roles, which is the secondary role to maybe chip on this guy or maybe to help out or stay in the box and not go out. You abandon that because you don't know that guy's coming. Go back and watch the film. I guarantee you, if you try to really focus on linebacker play and you know linebackers, you can tell when they're coming. So at that point, the coach, when they do these look at me stuff from the sideline, the coach is changing that call because they're picking us apart because they know when we're coming. Not because the coach doesn't have a good call in, defensive coach. It's because the linebackers and the players are giving it away.
You got to do something else. It's figured out. Y'all got
yeah. And now you out scheme. So the way the offenses are called today, not from the line of scrimmage, the coaches are able to tell these tendencies of these players, and that's allowing them to pick us apart a little bit, right? So linebackers got to be a lot more controlled, but you also got to trust everybody else that's going on. So those two things will really help the linebacker play specifically. Learn how to disguise and come from depth, and also trust them guys up front so you can look like you're out there running wild and free, but you know that man's got where he's supposed to be and you're going to be where you're supposed to be. That's the only way a defense is sound, if everybody's where they're supposed to be.
Hey, that's the linebacker preview with Derek Curry right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. Hey.
Appreciate you guys, man.
We told you it would be fire, LL Nation. DC, thank you for joining us today, man. We'll have you on during the season to talk about what's going on with the squad.
Definitely. I appreciate you guys, man. What you guys are doing is changing the game because y'all are talking about this stuff in ways that people feel, but they don't know how to articulate. So I appreciate what y'all do. When I watch y'all, I'm always empathizing with where y'all coming from because I feel it. And I had that same energy, but at the same time, publicly, sometimes we don't talk about it that way. So I appreciate you guys for stepping out there and saying the things that we all feel anyway, that maybe we're afraid to say, or maybe the keyword words are tight, but they can't, they don't have the pull. You guys got the pull, you got the cloud, but you also have that perspective that I think a lot of guys can empathize with. So I appreciate that. I like seeing that because a lot of these talking heads out here, it's like, that's not what you really feel. You saying that because that's a good soundbite, but you guys say what you feel, and I appreciate that. So respect.
Those guys grifters. We don't do that.
Yeah. For sure. I appreciate y'all. Much love, boy.
Derek Curry, love you, boy.
All right, man. Love y'all. Y'all have a good one.
All right, that's Derek Curry right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. That is our fall preview for the linebacker position. Hey, Left, it went better than I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah, he was very informative, very specific on what we need to take that next step from a defensive guy. Obviously, offensively, I'm like, they just ain't making the plays, but he told us why, and I think that made a big difference today.
Now, let me tell you something. They need to bring him in and let him talk to linebackers. That's all I'm saying. You know what time it is, Left.
Petticoat. Petticoat Junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing.
Are you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's petty historic? Petty Junction.
Petty Junction, petty story of the day brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com, that premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com.
I got one right off the bat.
Man, I know you do.
Britney Spears needs to apologize. If Wemby keeps hitting 30 points just like he's playing, Britney Spears is wrong and she needs to apologize because you can't be touching a superstar like that. Now, that's the face of the future of the league, man. Britney Spears, you're in the wrong for that. Don't be touching that, man. That's a walking bucket. And you wrong for that. He don't know Britney Spears. He ain't from America. So don't be acting like no fan now and crying wolf. When his team respond, he ain't even respond to you. The team responded to you, and that's right. You protect that 30 ball, San Antonio. You protect that championship.
Hey, man. I'm going to put the White Sox on the petty train, bro.
They live on the petty train, man. Good grief.
Left is hard. It's hard, man. It's hard, my brother. My summer is all about baseball usually, bro, and it is.
They've been letting you down, man.
I didn't even like who they drafted last night in the baseball draft. Left is
Like the draft pick. Good grief.
oh man, Donald Watt, thank you for the super chat. After that Lit Friday show was inspired to get me a Big Mick from McDowell's and watch Reverend Brown and Randy Watson. That's a Coming to America reference. Yeah, we started the show. The leftover from the show on Friday was your fajita rant, bro. It went crazy. The comments went crazy after the show about your fajita rant, bro. It was classic.
Yeah, the Applebee's 2 for $20, man.
The Applebee's 2 for $20, baby. That was, dude. That has to be a T-shirt. Somehow, some way. The offense is sizzling. Something.
Yeah, we gotta make it happen, man.
We gotta make it happen. So, big announcement. We will drop, and this is kind of a bite. But each and every Friday at luckyleftypod.com, it will be Fresh Fridays. We're dropping a brand new t-shirt designs each and every Friday. So you need to go to luckyleftypod.com each and every Friday to find out what the drop will be on Fresh Fridays. It's kind of like what Kanye used to do with good music back in the day. Every Friday during the summer, they dropped a new joint. We're doing the same thing, Lucky Lefty. So we're probably going to drop 2 t-shirts this Friday, 2 t-shirts the next Friday, all the way up to the start of the season. We're going to keep it funky. Fresh Fridays at luckyleftypod.com. Ooh, man. We gotta get DC back on, bro.
That's right. Him, Carl Reed. We got a lineup for the season. Him, Carl Reed, bring our guy Peyton Jr., Walt Peyton Jr. on. Reggie back on. Look, we got a nice lineup for the season. You're gonna have the in-depth, most spent, different perspective of Notre Dame football, the real. You know, we're not gonna give you the fake, because you know we do it the best over this way.
We spend it different, man. Have a great Monday. Enjoy. Don't forget Apple Podcasts, Spotify, CFB Nation each and every day for your audible edibles right here. It's the Lucky Lefty Podcast. Have a great Monday, but most of all, make sure that you spend it different.